It began with a video. Not only was it unexpected, but it was downright strange for someone who has positioned herself as a royal. Meghan Markle, wearing what many viewers said looked like a moon bump, was seen dancing in a hospital room with Prince Harry while twerking, laughing, and singing along to lyrics about being a baby mama and demanding child support. Before the question that no one in the audience could answer, the performance appeared more like a farce than a birth announcement. Meghan's pregnancies, particularly those with Archie and Libid, have long been the subject of speculation by the mainstream media. Major outlets have consistently dismissed the idea that she may have used a surrogate or a prosthetic bump as mere internet noise. But that video changed the game. It didn't just rekindle the old rumors, it practically poured gasoline on them and lit a match, because now it wasn't just fringe forums whispering about it. We are witnessing a broken heart that is allowed to bleed openly, and that is what you are witnessing. I am witnessing an entitled, arrogant, bitter, twisted little man who has had his claws dug into by a manipulative LA lady, and the two of them have embarked on a wrecking ball mission to enrich themselves by abusing the very institution which bestowed the titles to him. Voices from inside the media, including outspoken figures like Piers and Jeremy Kyle, have publicly questioned what they were seeing. In the UK, royal children must be born of the body to claim a place in the line of succession. So if Meghan used a surrogate and kept that information secret, it wouldn't just be about deception. It could mean that Archie and Filet aren't technically eligible for their royal titles or standing. This is why this conspiracy hits differently. It's not just tabloid fodder anymore. It could be constitutional as the four. When the clip went viral, people started dissecting it frame by frame. Meghan is squatting, bending, and twerking in ways that most pregnant women wouldn't consider doing. And that's not just internet conjecture. The bump doesn't look right, it sits too low and moves strangely. Physicians, mothers, and nurses from all platforms agreed that something seemed strange, and even those who typically support Meghan were unusually silent. However, it wasn't just the images, it was also the tone. Meghan dancing in black in a hospital ward with dramatic fraying. For someone who has claimed to crave privacy and left the UK allegedly to avoid media scrutiny, putting this kind of footage out felt like the exact opposite. It wasn't just a mistake, it felt like a setup for ridicule. And that's exactly what happened online. Memes exploded, hot takes flew in from every corner, theories multiplied, and people wondered if this was an elaborate PR stunt gone wrong, a diversion from something else, or just Greg Morgan, who never holds anything, took to X and stated, "We're about 2 months away from the sex tape," which is just another evidence of how totally cut off Meghan and Harry have gotten from public opinion. Harsh to be sure, but also a sign of how much the public's perception has changed as a result of this entire incident. Jeffrey, as he explained the footage as a lap dance club featuring a pregnant woman dancing in front of the camera, Kyle was not any nicer and was literally gagging on air. "Oh my gosh, it looks like a lap dancing club with expectant mothers. He's also dancing in front of the camera. She's wearing a black dress and is twerking while holding her bump." She posted this on social media. He didn't hold back on the wider ramifications, calling the entire display a disgrace to the monarchy. If that wasn't enough, mainstream outlets that had previously ignored the bump rumors began to make discreet inquiries behind the scenes, with journalists even whispering the same thing. However, things are getting worse now that she appears to be performing. What if viewers were shouting online? For years, this was forbidden, but now it's on the top pages, and Meghan hasn't said a word yet, but the harm may already be done. Jeffrey. Although Kyle wasn't done sitting across from Kenzie Scappold, he launched into what may have been one of his most vicious takedowns, mocking the entire concept of privacy that Meghan and Harry once professed to value. I'm going to feel a little queasy as I attempt to explain this, because after repeatedly telling us that the only thing she does with her dreadful songs nowadays is post images of her kids everywhere, which makes me go, well, hold on a second. They fled the UK because they wanted privacy and detested the press and everything. He claimed that they left the UK to avoid the media, but now she's dancing like a TikTok star in a delivery room, and his voice was filled with shock that there are kids left with hens, jam jars that no one wants, and now a music video in a maternity dress. Kinsey didn't hold back either, pointing out how detached Meghan appeared from the dignity that being a royal once demanded. It wasn't just about the dancing, though, it was the entire spectacle. "This isn't someone in labor," Kinsey said. "This is someone selling something, selling herself." That's when things got more unsettling, because the performance had lyrics, music, and visuals that all felt a little too polished. People on the internet started to ask, was this even shot while she was actually pregnant? One nurse commented, "That's not a labor and delivery room," while another said, "That's not how a hospital bed is supposed to be positioned. The IV line doesn't go there." That was followed by the inconsistencies in the hospital room. Another person declared bluntly that she wasn't in labor, claiming that it was a costume drama. It even got to the point where the bulge appeared too smooth and rigid, moving strangely beneath the clothing that the lady had brought. One woman commented, "That belly is too round and too perfect. It looks like it came from Amazon." And then old footage of Meghan's bump folding awkwardly while she was sitting, and other videos showing her hand pressing against her stomach and the shape shifting unnaturally appeared. This wasn't a novel theory, but it felt more real than ever. Morgan went all out and shared a split-screen contrast of Meghan dancing in the hospital room and on stage years prior with a very differing posture and contour of the bump. Alexandra Marshall, speaking from Australia, looked visibly disturbed as an ambassador for Australia's constitutional monarchy. She stated unequivocally that the video was a nightmare for monarchists, explaining that it wasn't just about embarrassment but also about ammunition. She also warned that Republicans in nations like Australia would use this circus as evidence that modern monarchy had become a farce. The most chilling response came from Norman Fenton, a math professor who recently left court. He wasn't talking about feelings. Rather, he was talking about logic, saying that this bump doesn't behave like a real pregnancy. He stated plainly that it's inconsistent with what we know about full-term physical behavior. He didn't delve deeply into medical analysis, but he didn't need to. He just asked the question that had started the argument, haunting the general public. Articles about Meghan's lovely birthday message for Filet were pinned at the top of news sites, but major publications remained strangely silent. If this isn't true, what does that indicate for Archie and Tibet? That quiet began to speak loudly, because behind the scenes, reporters were messaging whistleblowers to find sources and confirm whether this video was actually new or if Meghan had faked it years prior, dusted it out and pushed it. It was just fluff, nothing important, nothing difficult. Now that attention was waning, why was that the only thing that no one could understand? What was the plan? What was the objective? If it was damage control, it backfired. If it was publicity, it worked for all the wrong reasons. Speculation became more structured as people started to make connections, and more voices began calling for actual consequences. Not only public humiliation or financial penalties, but also real action from the royal institution. The constant query was no longer about decency or taste, but rather about eligibility. When legal experts weighed in, they weren't merely speculating on rumors. They were pointing out that this could be a constitutional crisis concealed beneath a layer of online celebrity chaos. Meghan had staged not just a video, but an entire pregnancy. What did that mean for Archie and Lily's royal status? The rule was clear. In order to remain in the royal line of succession, a child must be born of a royal surrogacy's body. Unless publicly disclosed and legally documented, this could disqualify them. Then came the unconfirmed but widely believed rumor that Prince Harry was considering returning to his mother's maiden name, Spencer. That move alone sent shockwaves through the royal watching world. Was it damage control or preemptive distancing? Petitioners demanded that Buckingham Palace launch an inquiry. Some wanted the Sussex children removed from the royal website. Others called for an immediate suspension of their titles until birth certificates and medical records could be verified. According to sources cited in royal gossip sections, people close to the royal family were not amused. King Charles was extremely disappointed by the most recent stunt, while William was reportedly more upset about the fact that it brought the monarchy back into disarray than the video itself. According to some reports, he even privately called the video a disgrace to everything that mom stood for. Royal biographers wasted neither time nor books that were long in progress. The chapters were abruptly changed, theories were investigated more thoroughly, and even senior palace employees began to speak out. One of them allegedly stated, "We've protected them for too long. This isn't about media bias anymore. It's about national trust." After then, there was a media shift that nobody anticipated, with several well-known anchors supporting if this video was intended to prove something, it has only raised more doubt. Meghan commented hesitantly in response to the scenario. Another, "The issue is not that Meghan danced, rather it's that she appears to be portraying a character with real-life stakes." The most bizarre aspect of it all was that this topic suddenly moved from the periphery to the forefront. Meghan didn't reply, didn't issue a press release, didn't deny anything, didn't try to explain the video, and didn't even post a meek Instagram comment about avoiding the noise. Instead, there was nothing, and in that silence the theories became louder. Was she expecting that everything would work out? As the dust settled, the public's mood had changed from mockery to discomfort. There was a persistent feeling that something wasn't right, and that the palace might be ignoring it to avoid more drama, but ignoring it didn't make it go away. The more they remained silent, the more the public began to ask, what else have we not been told? It was about trust and legacy, not just one film or one peony-looking bump. Concerning whether the royal family was maintaining the values it professed to represent, Meghan's video wasn't simply embarrassing or strange to many. It was the time they stopped trusting anything that came from that area of the royal tent.